We had been deeply in love for a decade, and our wedding was finally on the horizon. However, the day before the ceremony, Lily's first love reached out. He declared, "Lily, I'm here to take you away. You're coming with me, right?" Lily's eyes welled up, and her voice quivered as she responded, "How dare you? How dare you appear before me? I don't want to see you." Despite her denial, she spent the entire night sobbing on the balcony, even wearing the pendant Alex had gifted her before the wedding. I smiled and immediately called Alex. 5 million. Don't return to your country tomorrow, I demanded. Alex replied resolutely, Mia, don't think you can bypass anything just because you have money. I interrupted, 10 million. He hesitated and stammered. True love is priceless. Lily and I, we're true love. I raised my voice. 20 million. He faltered. Mia, this isn't right. I smirked. 30 million. If you don't agree, I'll hang up. Don't hang up, I continued. The wedding proceeded without a hitch. We had seen most guests off, and both families had already departed. Only close friends remained, encouraging everyone to enjoy themselves. No one was leaving without having a good time. Lily's cheeks were flushed, and she had consumed a fair amount of alcohol. On the surface, she seemed cheerful, accepting toasts from everyone without a word. Perhaps she drank too quickly, because after a few coughs, she leaned against me. Her eyes were red, looking pitiable, with the expression of a delicate woman in distress. Yet a faint smile tugged at her lips. Neither of us appeared pitiful. Her demeanor was that of a refined woman in turmoil, but with a subtle smile, neither happy nor sad. People around us exchanged glances. One asked, Alex, is your wife all right? I waved my hand, placing my arm around Lily's shoulders and smiling. She's fine. Lily's just very happy today. It was our wedding day, and she was overly excited, but anyone observant could tell something was amiss with Lily. She seemed distracted several times, especially during the ring exchange. She remained silent for a long moment. When I placed the ring on her finger, she glanced toward the closed door with a look of both resignation and mockery. She smiled bitterly before turning away, completely masking her emotions. No one knew what was troubling her except me, and all I could offer was an apology. Today, she would never get what she truly wanted. At the dinner table, someone called out, Alex, come on, you two haven't had your toast yet. Hurry, this can't be skipped. I loosened my grip around Lily, smiling lightly as I moved forward, ignoring the look she gave me. I picked up a glass of wine and said, forget the toast. Enjoy yourselves and keep drinking. The venue was available for the rest of the night, but we were moving to the next location. All the expenses are on my tab. I'm leaving now. With that, I downed the glass in one go. At that moment, if anyone still felt something was off, they must have been truly oblivious. The room fell silent. It was an awkward silence, but my smile remained unwavering. I set the glass down and turned to leave. Just as I reached the lobby, Lily caught up with me. She ran toward me, grabbing my sleeve tightly, biting her lip as she asked, Where are you going? I kept a straight face and replied, The airport. She frowned slightly, angrily asking, Alex, what are you doing? We just got married and you're leaving without a word. I looked at Lily, admiring the beautiful lines of her mermaid dress. I sighed, barely audible. This dress was handmade with my oversight on every detail. I had flown abroad 4 times to adjust measurements and fine-tune every aspect to make it perfect. Undoubtedly, this wedding dress was flawless, but today, on Lily, it just didn't look right. What a pity. I lifted my hand, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. My hand slid down her cheek and neck. As she swallowed, I subtly retrieved the necklace hidden beneath her dress. Lily's face instantly paled. She instinctively tried to pull away, but my grip stopped her. Her lips moved, attempting to say something, but no words emerged. Breaking the silence, I said, Don't worry, he's not coming. I just bought his freedom for 30 million. Tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon, you can pick him up at the airport. This situation required no explanation. Both Lily and I knew exactly who it was because of this necklace, the very one Lily had thrown into the pool 10 years ago. I had witnessed Ken buying it with my own eyes. The past was vivid in my mind. It turned out, it wasn't just her I couldn't forget. As I walked out of the hotel, a breeze brushed past me and I adjusted my collar. The next moment, a red sports car sped toward me. Instinctively, I took 2 steps back, but the car stopped right in front of me. The window rolled down, and a woman with bright red lips and a calm gaze said, "Handsome, need a ride?" I was speechless. I said, "Mia, what are you doing here?" She pursed her lips, indifferent. "Are you getting in or not?" I shook my head and politely declined. "I'm waiting for my driver." She scoffed. "The puke yellow Cullinan. It's got a flat tire." I was speechless. Perhaps my silence was so overwhelming that Mia pursed her lips again. She asked, "Where are you headed?" I didn't want to get into her car. Our relationship wasn't that close. But then Lily came rushing out. She looked at me with a hurt expression and said, "Alex, let's talk. It's not what you think. This necklace." But before she could finish, the sound of a horn interrupted her. She asked the same question I had just asked. "Mia, what are you doing here?" Mia flashed a playful smile. "What I do is none of your business." "Alex, get in the car." Lily's face turned red with anger. She grabbed my arm, trying to pull me away. I didn't budge. Lily's voice trembled. "Alex?" But I ignored her. Turning to face her as I pried her fingers off one by one, Lily looked devastated, her eyes welling up with tears. She said nothing, just silently watched me. My heart ached for a moment, but I still opened Mia's car door and got in. Mia let out a triumphant hum. The window rolled up, and the car sped off with a jolt. The feeling of acceleration made my heart skip a beat, and I almost forgot how reckless she could be. I sighed. "Mia, can you value your life a little?" My tone wasn't the friendliest. Only then did I realize I had expected Mia to retort or at least ignore me, but instead, she simply lowered the speed. "Thanks," I said, licking my dry lips, feeling embarrassed, suddenly regretting getting into the car on impulse. Mia seemed to sense my discomfort. She turned on the radio, playing some relaxing light music. She tilted her head slightly and said, "There's water inside. Help yourself." I nodded. "Thanks. I probably should have made small talk, but I just didn't have the energy for it." So I leaned against the car window, staring blankly outside. My thoughts were scattered, thinking about 10 years ago, the past decade, today. I couldn't make sense of it, couldn't figure it out. The truth was, no matter how calm I appeared, I was still sad, and beneath that sadness, I was exhausted, bone-deep tired. I took out my phone and sent Lily a message. I wrote, "My suggestion is that you keep things between you and Ken a secret for now, and let's gradually distance ourselves. When I get back, we can discuss the details. Of course, if you want a quick resolution, then you'll have to bear the consequences yourself." After sending the message, I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, we had already arrived at the airport. It felt like I had blinked, but 40 minutes had passed. My heart skipped a beat, and I hurriedly got out of the car. I locked eyes with Mia, who was standing outside sipping her bubble tea. She asked, "Awake?" I was about to call her after finishing this. I apologized. "Thanks for today. When I'm back in town, let me treat you to a meal." I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arm. "Wait, come with me." I stared at her, confused. She explained, "I'm on the same flight as you." I asked, "You're going to France too, for the fashion show?" My rusty brain processed the question before answering myself. "Right, you must have been invited too." I had already interpreted the situation for myself and didn't notice the sigh of relief Mia let out. The schedule in France was tight, almost a non-stop whirlwind. For those 3 days, Mia and I came and went together. At first, it was out of politeness. After all, she had helped me, and it wouldn't be right to continue treating her as just an acquaintance. But as I spent more time with her, I realized that Mia wasn't as spoiled, temperamental, or sharp-tongued as rumors had suggested. On the contrary, most of the time she was very understanding. We also shared many of the same views. This made me joke. "I really hope we can collaborate more in the future, Miss Mia." Mia smiled and replied, "There will be." On the day we returned to the country, we were on the same flight, arriving at the airport at 3 in the morning. She insisted on giving me a ride home again. I didn't refuse, but as I stepped outside, I saw Lily at the arrival gate. She was standing there in a black dress staring into space. When she saw me, her brows softened slightly, but upon noticing Mia behind me, her expression immediately hardened. She bit her lip and said, "Mia, what are you trying to do?" Mia responded, "What do you think I'm trying to do?" Lily raised her voice. "Mia, I'm warning you, stay away from Alex." Mia shot back, "Sorry, but who do you think you are to warn me?" Lily snapped, "I'm Alex's wife." Mia's smile deepened. "Is that so? If I recall correctly, you two haven't registered your marriage yet." Mia was right. Although Lily and I had held a wedding, we hadn't actually registered our marriage. We had planned to do it a month later. At first I thought it was a bit too late, but now I was just relieved we hadn't done it yet. Mia's words clearly struck a nerve with Lily. She raised her hand to slap Mia. I immediately stepped in and blocked her. I placed myself between them and rubbed my temples. "Enough! Stop it!" Lily glared at me, her eyes full of fury. She asked, "Are you defending her?" I had a headache, a real headache. I didn't want to argue, didn't want to fight. I just wanted to sleep. I said, "Let's talk about this later." "All right." Lily clenched her teeth. I could clearly see the humiliation in her eyes. She said in a trembling voice, "Let's go back." I scoffed and replied, "Go back where? Are you asking me to watch you and Ken play happy couple?" "Sorry, I'm not into that." Ken had returned to the country. He had arrived the day after I left, just as planned. A friend of mine informed me that Lily had been very cautious when picking up Ken. Hardly anyone knew about it. The two of them were sneaky, wearing masks, sunglasses, and hats, and as soon as they got off the plane, they got into a car and left. The friend told me they looked like celebrities, all decked out in disguise. That afternoon, after hearing the news, I tripped and fell down a flight of stairs. I wasn't seriously injured, but it hurt like hell. The pain made my head throb. Mia dusted off my shoes and asked me what had happened. I shook my head and didn't say anything. I just couldn't help thinking Lily had definitely been listening to my words, even now. With her here to pick me up, it made sense. After all, we had just held a wedding, received a substantial amount of gift money, and sealed several deals. Even if it was for publicity, it should at least be capitalized on. But I was just too tired. I pinched the bridge of my nose and said, "I just want to go home and sleep. We'll talk tomorrow." When I got home, I almost collapsed into bed and fell asleep immediately. By the time I woke up, the sun had already set and the room was completely dark and empty. In moments like this, when you're feeling down, everything seems amplified. I wasn't an exception. I just lay there staring blankly, letting the negative emotions take over. It wasn't until I felt completely numb, as if all the tears had dried up, that I got up and washed my face. Lily was sitting in the living room. I wasn't surprised to see her. She knew the password to the door and even my bank card PIN. I poured myself a glass of cold water and drank it in one go. She softly asked, "When did you find out?" The question seemed a bit silly. I replied, "You got that call the day before the wedding. What do you think? When could I have found out?" "Sorry, Miss Lynn. I eavesdropped on your voicemail. That was the day before the wedding. According to custom, we weren't supposed to see each other, but when we spoke on the phone that afternoon, I could tell something was off in her voice. I asked, 'Are you in pain again?' She replied, 'It's okay, I'm fine.' I knew Lily well enough to understand that when she said that, she was actually in a lot of pain. Without hesitation, I drove straight to Miss Lynn's house. When I arrived, she was still busy. One hand was scrolling through the computer, while the other was rubbing her calf. When she saw me, she was surprised and asked, "What are you doing here?" I shook the thermos and the soup in my hand and said, "I brought you some warmth." She softly responded, "I'm not that delicate. I can just use a hot compress." Even though she said that, the joy in her eyes was impossible to hide. I gave her the medicine, served the soup, and helped her lie down, gently massaging her calf and pressure points. The atmosphere was peaceful. Without even looking up, I knew she was watching me. It was calm and serene, just the way I liked it. Then her phone rang. I handed it to her. The number was international, with no contact name saved. It was a number I shouldn't have remembered, but it was etched into my mind. It was the number she had dialed repeatedly, pleading when she was in pain and lying on the bed. Ken's number. I didn't show any reaction. Neither did Lily. She told me it was her best friend calling with something urgent and asked me to step outside, but she locked the bedroom door. When she came out, her voice was a little hoarse, but there seemed to be no other change. She said, "I'm fine now, you can go back." I nodded and didn't argue, but I used the excuse of needing to work to borrow her phone. Maybe she didn't even know the recording function was on. So I listened in on the brief conversation. A man's voice came through saying, "Lily, if I come to steal you away, will you go with me?" Lily choked on her words. "How dare you appear before me again to torment me? I never want to see you again." That night, she cried on the balcony for hours. We were both waiting for an outcome. Right before going on stage, she put on that necklace. I understood then that my plan had succeeded. At the same time, I felt a sense of relief, glad that I'd made thorough preparations. Lily asked, "Since you already know, why didn't you do anything?" I scoffed and replied, "What should I have done? Call off the wedding?" "Lily, actually, I should be asking you, how dare you? How could you even think about running away from the wedding? Do you know what this wedding means? If it doesn't happen as scheduled, the breach of contract fees alone aren't small. Plus, with the stock market volatility, have you even calculated how much loss this will cause?" She bit her lip and said, "Is that the only reason?" I replied, "Then what else?" Lily clenched her fists, took a deep breath, and said, "If I told you I wouldn't go with him, would you believe me?" I shook my head and replied, "Adults don't talk about what-ifs. Since you're already here, let's talk about the next steps. My suggestion is to take it slow and separate gradually. Our joint investments and shared real estate can continue as they are. Of course, if you want out, I'll take over everything. But the sum is so large, it might need to be done in installments. If you can't wait," she cut me off. "Alex, I can't forget Ken, all those things. I just can't forget." It felt like a knife had stabbed into my heart. The knife had barbs, and when it was pulled out, it tore through my flesh. She said she couldn't forget. It was the answer I had already known deep down. But when she voiced it, it hit me harder than I expected. Love really is a strange thing. In those past days, the history between us unfolded. Once upon a time, Ken was my best brother. Once upon a time, Lily hated Ken. She used to say, "Selfish, greedy, shrewd, calculating. How could you have a friend like Ken?" But later, she fell for him. She said, "I've never met anyone who lives as authentically and openly as he does." It only took 3 years, from mutual disdain to mutual admiration. They were really together for just half a year. Teenage love kept secret from everyone. Only I knew. I helped cover for them, and what I also covered up was my feelings for Lily. I thought that would be the end of it, but changes came too quickly. Lily got into a car accident and broke her leg. Ken, with the 500,000 ween from the Lee family, left the country, nearly shattering Lily. She fell into self-destruction, locking herself away from everyone except me. Someone once asked me, "Is it worth it? She's clearly looking for Ken in you. Why do you degrade yourself?" But it wasn't like that. I wasn't degrading myself, nor did I think about whether it was worth it. That was Lily, the Lily I had grown up with, the Lily I had called my little sister for many years. The one who cried like a blooming pear blossom if I didn't spend time with her. The Lily who, in high school, would make sure no one got away with talking badly about me. Liking her was my own decision. She never hurt me. When she was in trouble, I would help. It wasn't until later, when we naturally ended up together, that I had to admit I had selfish motives. I still liked her, I couldn't let go, and I wanted to give it a try. I thought I had succeeded. From 18 to 28, 10 years. Did that not cover up their 3 years? But it truly couldn't. I spoke sharply. Give you time? How? Give you time to choose between two options. Lily, don't make me laugh. This was probably the first time I'd spoken to Lily like that. She was clearly hurt by my words, biting her lip in silence. She turned and walked away quickly, but her limp was evident. It was the disability left by her accident. Everyone always said Lily had an elegant walk, a graceful stride like a lady of distinction. But that was just a mask to cover up her flaws. No matter how much therapy or care she had received over the years, she couldn't return to her former self. She could only walk step by step slowly, and I was always by her side. But this time, I didn't look back. Lily and I could hide our issues from the public, but we couldn't hide them from our families. When my parents found out, they were furious, threatening to confront the Lee family. Before I could even stop them, I heard that Lee's mother had been hospitalized. Suddenly, the anger didn't seem to have anywhere to go. My father sighed. I don't quite understand your thinking. Normally, when your wife is taken away, it's a matter of life and death. You've been humiliated like this, and we shouldn't let the Lee family off easy. But here you are, acting like nothing's wrong. So, tell me, what are you really thinking? I replied, let it go. There's no need to make enemies. We still have business to do, and we can't sever ties completely. Of course, we'll still make money where we can. My father sighed again. You've really grown up. His sigh made my heart feel strangely bitter. Just then, my assistant knocked on the door and said Mia had arrived. My father asked, what's going on? I said she has a project she wants to collaborate on. Mia's project was almost guaranteed to succeed. Many people wanted to collaborate with Rencorp, but she specifically sought me out. I asked Mia, why me? She snorted. Because I like the look of you. I laughed, just like that. She nodded seriously. Exactly like that. With business on the table, there was no reason to turn it down. That evening, we went out for a dinner meeting. I didn't expect Lily to walk in. She approached, took my wine glass, half sat on my chair, and addressed the people at the table. Sorry to interrupt everyone. I shouldn't really be here, but my husband's health isn't great, and he shouldn't be drinking too much, so I thought I'd keep an eye on him. Is that all right? As she spoke, she sat down beside me, dramatically putting food into my bowl. Mia's face darkened, clearly upset. I subtly shook my head at her. Lily wanted to play the loving wife act, and I wasn't about to disrupt it in front of everyone, so I went along with it. By the end of the dinner, most people were drunk and leaving. Only Mia, Lily, and I remained. Lily threw her chopsticks to the ground. Her soft, loving demeanor vanished, replaced with anger. She said, Mia, I don't care what you're trying to do, but stay away from Alex. Lily grabbed my sleeve and said, Honey, let's go home. Mia wasn't going to back down. She grabbed my other arm. Lily shouted, Mia, let go. Don't think I won't slap you. Mia scoffed and retorted, Crippled sister, I've been tolerating you all night. Lily's face flushed with anger. It looked like they were about to fight. I pushed them both apart and said, Do whatever you want. I'm leaving. Lily glared at Mia, then turned and chased after me. She said again, Let's go home. I stepped back and said, Lily, can you stop disturbing me? You've already made your choice. It's Ken. Stick with your choice and stop running to me for no reason. I'm really tired of it. In the dim light, I could hardly see Lily's expression, but I heard her trembling voice say, I just don't want you to be tricked by that bad woman. Mia has ill intentions. Don't trust her. I chuckled bitterly. Tricked? Ill intentions? For all these years, the one who's been tricking me, the one with ill intentions, has always been you. She replied, I didn't. I cut her off, speaking slowly. Don't be so quick to deny it. 6 months ago, the day after we confirmed the wedding date, you left the country. I stood outside Ken's place all night, and you did too. When we came back, you were sick for a week. I took care of you as always. Didn't ask any questions. Didn't say anything. I thought it was just you saying goodbye to the past. 2 years ago, on Ken's birthday, you went back to high school to that restaurant where we used to eat spicy hot pot. The owner asked if you were married. If it was with that tall, skinny guy, you said yes. I was standing outside, watching you smile while I was falling apart. 3 years ago, I found that necklace in that safe, the one with the password I didn't know. The password wasn't Ken's birthday, but the day you two got together. That necklace was cheap, bought from a street vendor for just a few bucks. You threw it into the swimming pool in front of me. I'm sure you fished it out yourself. I remember that time you were really sick, feverish, losing weight. I never wanted to say all this because it would make me look pathetic. I've always hated being a simp, but with you, I lost all my principles. 10 years, 10 years of sunk costs. How could I just let it go? But I've come to realize that no matter how high the sunk cost, today is always the day with the least loss. So please, Miss Lynn, stop disturbing me, I'm busy. Saying all of this nearly drained me, mentally and physically. Lily stood still, not following me anymore. I walked slowly ahead. I didn't know how long I walked. I was exhausted, so I squatted down by the roadside. A while later, Mia's red sports car slowly drove up and stopped beside me. The window rolled down, and she looked at me with a smug expression. Young Master Wong, you're so heartless. You just left me behind. Why aren't you walking anymore? I sighed. Mia, I can't walk anymore. She said, Then what are you standing there for? Get in the car. I asked, Mia, why do you call her the cripple? She replied, She is one. She paused and then said, If you don't like it, I won't call her that anymore. I shook my head. I don't mind. I just want to remind you, don't be fooled by her looks. When she gets angry, she can hit pretty hard. She snorted. She can't beat me. I asked, Really? She answered, Yeah. I nodded and said, Mia, let's go grab some lamb soup. There's a place that makes it really well. She agreed. Okay. I said, Mia, play a song for us. She hesitated for a moment. Mia, I need to cry for a bit. You don't mind, right? She said, The situation between us and the Lee family had become rather awkward. Lee's mother was hospitalized, and my mother hoped I would visit her. Mrs. Lee has called me more than once, crying and apologizing to you. No matter what Lily has done, the Lai family's concern for you over the years has never been fake. I nodded and agreed to visit, bringing a fruit basket to the hospital. When I got off the elevator and turned into Ward C, I froze in my tracks. In the hallway outside the room, a man was sitting on the floor cross-legged. He wore all black, looking worn out and frail. One hand held a lighter, the other a cigarette, and he was arguing with a nurse. The nurse said, Family member, smoking is not allowed in the hospital. The man replied, I won't go inside. I'll just smoke out here. The nurse countered, It's not allowed here either. The man retorted, What am I supposed to do then? If I don't smoke, I'm going to die. The nurse said, If you really must smoke, you can go outside. The man shook his head, then said, Tell the guys across the hall to let me go. The nurse was speechless. He continued, Then let me smoke here. No. At that moment, I snatched the lighter from his hand, and the man quickly looked up. Our eyes met briefly before he hurriedly lowered his gaze. He did it so fast, I thought he might break his neck. I handed the lighter to the nurse. All right, go on and do your job, I said. The nurse breathed a sigh of relief and repeatedly thanked me. I nodded and started walking into the room, not intending to speak to the man on the floor. But suddenly, he stood up and grabbed my shoulder. He said, Alex. I slapped his hand away and, lowering my voice, said, Don't call me Alex. He stammered, Alex, I gritted my teeth and said, Ken, stop talking. Ken fell silent and sat back down on the floor. I sighed and said, didn't I give you 30 million? Why are you still smoking such cheap cigarettes? Ken smiled and replied, the 30 million has already been returned to you. I was speechless. Why did you return it? I asked. He frowned and said, asking you for money was just a joke. Did you really take it seriously? I was at a loss for words. Ken stood up again, leaning in and saying, Alex, at the B-section hotel, I'm staying there with my daughter. She's very well behaved, super obedient. I can't leave here, but can you go check on her for me? I was stunned. What was this nonsense? I had been lost in thoughts about the 30 million, but now my mind was blank. I asked, what? You what? You have a daughter. Ken told me he had a 6-year-old daughter who had come back to the country to start first grade. I asked, what about the mother? He said, she had the baby and then ran off. Maybe she thought I couldn't satisfy her. I don't really care. We didn't have much feeling for each other anyway. We were just living together. And now I'm raising the kid on my own. Aren't I impressive? My head was buzzing. I said, Ken, if you're sick, go see a doctor. You don't need to go into such detail with me. This sudden news left me shaken, and I didn't want to stay any longer. I turned and left the hospital. I sped to the hotel. Outside the room, I knocked on the door. A childish voice called out, who's there? For a moment, I was at a loss for words, not sure how to introduce myself. I blurted out, Alex? I felt foolish as soon as I said it, but the door opened. A little girl with curly hair looked at me curiously, stared for a while. Then her eyes lit up, and she shouted, Uncle! It was like a dream. Ken, who had been abroad for 10 years, now had a 6-year-old daughter. He had destroyed my marriage, but left his daughter alone in the hotel, telling her that Alex was his best buddy, and if anything ever happened to him, she could come find me. What kind of man was he? How could he make everything so ridiculous? I had the little girl moved to another room on the top floor with a nanny to take care of her. She was very well behaved the whole time, not a peep out of her. After I settled her in, I was preparing to confront Ken, but just then Lily's call came in. She said, where are you? I need to talk to you. How unlucky, I said. I'm on my way to your house. Bring Ken along. I arrived quickly, and Lily opened the door for me. In the living room, Ken was sitting on the carpet smoking. When he saw me, he waved at me with a big grin. I asked Lily, what do you want to talk to me about? Her expression was complicated. Her brow furrowed as she said, we're still waiting for someone. Once everyone's here, I'll tell you. I had no idea who she was waiting for. The only people involved with us were the 3 of us, so I couldn't think of anyone else. But no matter how much I thought, I didn't expect Mia to show up last. Lily snorted. You really dared to come? Mia's expression was indifferent. She didn't even glance at Lily. Walking straight up to me, she pursed her lips and said, sorry, Alex. I didn't want to hide this from you. If you're angry with me, I won't blame you, but I just hope you'll give me a chance to explain. Alex, I didn't want to hide this from you. If you're angry with me, I won't blame you, but I just hope you'll give me a chance to explain. I was confused. Is this related to you? She said. I looked at Lily, then at Ken. I said, wait a minute, let me finish this first. I turned to Lily and asked, do you know Ken has a 6-year-old daughter? I asked again, what do you think about that? Being with Ken and leaving his daughter behind? Is this how it is with a stepmother and stepfather? Lily shook her head continuously. Alex, what I need to tell you is not this. I said, but I need to tell you this. And you, Ken. I've arranged for someone to take care of your child, whatever you two think. Leaving a child in a hotel like that is despicable. I turned to Mia and said, let's go. Lily called after me. Alex, take care of your child, whatever you two think. Leaving a child in a hotel like that is despicable. I turned to Mia and said, let's go. Lily called after me. Alex? I ignored her as she screamed. Do you know that Ken came back to the country because Mia instigated it? I stopped in my tracks. I turned around, and Mia was looking at me with a nervous expression. So what? Lily looked confused. What? I turned and looked at Lily. What exactly are you trying to tell me? She replied, I just want you to know, Mia has bad intentions. Everything is part of her plan. Don't be deceived by her. I asked. And then, Lily, looking furious, said, And then what? Don't you get it, Alex? If it weren't for Mia, none of this would have happened. Can't you see that? I laughed and said, And then what? Don't you get it, Alex? If it weren't for Mia, none of this would have happened. Can't you see that? Lily, you're the one who doesn't get it. Ken coming back was just the trigger. Honestly, I should thank Mia. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have realized what I should have done. Mia and I had been sitting in relative silence for a long time. I asked, Mia, is it really as I thought? Or have I misunderstood? Seeing her shy and awkward for the first time was, to be honest, quite amusing. I'm not a fool. From the moment I met Mia at the wedding to everything that followed, I had noticed the unusual tension, but I just didn't think much of it. Mia looked up at me, her eyes serious and focused, as if she had made up her mind. She said, Yes, you're right. I like you. Her bluntness left me speechless. I couldn't help but ask, Why? She propped her chin up with one hand, thinking for a moment before replying, It's a long story. You probably don't remember? She continued, I went to school out of town for high school. That summer, after the college entrance exams, my grandmother passed away, so I came back here. I was really sad because of the exams. Everyone kept it from her, so she wasn't even able to attend her grandmother's funeral. She said she was furious and argued with her family. One day it rained heavily, and I ran out of the house but encountered a group of punks blocking my way. They trapped me in an alley, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape. In the end, I tripped and fell, injuring myself and bleeding. At the end of my rope, I saw you. She said, You had your bodyguards catch the leader and take him to the police station. Then, for some reason, you took a picture of me and gave me an umbrella, saying you'd develop the photo and give it to me the next day. But you didn't show up. The distant memory resurfaced as Mia recounted it. I remember that rainy day, with the sun and rain mixed together. I was wandering through that cobblestone alley when I happened to see a girl being chased and cornered. I knocked down the lead punks, and the rest scattered like birds. It was then that I saw the girl sitting on the steps, sunlight breaking through the rain, casting down on her. It was as if she was under a spotlight. I picked up my camera and said, Little angel, give me a peace sign. Coming back to the present, I said, It was you. She nodded. Yes. Such a coincidence made me smile, but then I remembered my failure to keep my promise. And I felt a little apologetic. I said, It wasn't on purpose that I didn't come. That night, Lily had a car accident. She replied, I know. I asked. Then, Mia smiled and said, I know what you're going to ask. I didn't like you for 10 years. I just felt grateful. I always thought I'd get a chance to repay you. But I like you now because of the time we've spent together. Alex, falling for you wasn't hard. Mia seemed determined to be straightforward. Her boldness caught me off guard, but then I noticed her ears turning bright red, so she had been hiding her shy side all along. I said, What about Ken? The usually direct Mia suddenly fell silent, lips pressed together. I chuckled. It's fine. I'm not mad at you, she replied. It's not that I'm afraid of you being mad at me. I sensed the hidden meaning behind her words and straightened up. I said, Tell me, I can handle it. Mia hesitated for a long time. I didn't rush her. I just waited for her to speak. She finally said, About half a month ago, I ran into Lily at a bar. She had drunk a lot, and she said that if it weren't for Ken, she wouldn't be with you. Her words hit me hard, and I, with the help of 2 million yuan and an elementary school admission spot, went to find Ken, wanting to understand why. Mia continued, Ken didn't tell me, but 2 days before your wedding, he said he was going to fix things. Fix things? What did he need to fix? Only Ken knows. I called him. He was out of breath when he answered. He said, "Tell you, no problem, but you'll need to come pick me up. I had a fallout with Lily and I'm heading out." Damn, this place is so bad, I can't even get a cab. Ken had already eaten over 20 skewers and showed no sign of stopping. 10 years ago, I rushed to the airport to make him return to Lily's side and warned him that if he left like this, he should never come back. 10 years later, we sat calmly by the roadside eating skewers. Time is a strange thing. After half a bowl of fried noodles, Ken finally slowed down. He slowly said, "Before Lily, I never planned to come back. But after Lily was born, I kept thinking I had to return. After all, I want her to speak fluent Chinese. Alex, whether I plan to return or not, I never wanted to get involved between you and Lily," I asked. "Then why did you get involved?" he replied. "Because Mia called me," I asked. "So what did Lily mean by what she said? What did she mean when she said she wouldn't be with me if it weren't for you?" Ken put down his chopsticks and said seriously, "I told Lily something. I told her a girl from a wealthy family like her should be with a guy like you." I asked, "When did you say that?" He answered, "The 4th year I was abroad. That was when Lily agreed to my confession, so that's how it was." I couldn't help but sigh, but the sigh came out more like a strangled breath. It was a bit awkward, a bit lonely. I suddenly stood up, but then I felt dizzy. The next second, a pair of slender hands caught me. It was Mia. She supported me as I walked forward. She said, "Alex, I'm sorry." I stopped in my tracks, not turning around, and said calmly, "It's not your fault." I drove aimlessly in my mustard-colored car. After passing the same convenience store for the 3rd time, a voice came from the back seat. Mia couldn't help but ask, "Are you lost?" I was completely confused. I had forgotten someone was sitting in the back. I said, "Sorry, where do you want to go?" She replied, "I thought you'd take me home." I nodded and said, "All right, I'll take you home." But then she stopped me. "How about we go see a movie instead? An outdoor movie?" We sat in the car, eating the popcorn Mia bought. It was a bit too sweet. The movie was an old one I'd seen before, but I still watched it again. I knew Mia had been stealing glances at me. When the movie ended, I said, "Back in school, I once ate out and had a splinter from a disposable chopstick poke into my hand. It was tiny, almost invisible, but it hurt so much. My roommate suggested I take it out, but I didn't want to. It hurt too much. The splinter stayed in my flesh overnight, and every time I touched it, it hurt. So I bit the bullet and took it out. A big needle went into my skin, and when I pulled the splinter out, you know what happened? It didn't hurt anymore. There was this feeling of relief, of joy." I smiled at Mia and said, "Lily was that splinter in my heart. Now it's gone." "Miss Mia, thank you." This may sound ungrateful, but honestly, I might not be ready for a relationship in the short term. Mia nodded and said, "I know. Actually, I wasn't planning on telling you now, nor was I trying to do anything. I just promised I'd be honest with you." Looking into Mia's clear eyes, I chuckled softly. As my collaboration with Mia gradually increased, my connection with Lily slowly began to sever. When my assistant showed me the winery's financial reports, I thought for a moment and said, "Transfer it. First, check with the Lee family if they're interested. If not, just sell it off. Got it?" Many had already noticed the tension between Lily and me. So when a friend asked, I didn't hide anything and laughed, saying, "We've tried living together for a while, but it didn't work out. We probably won't be getting that certificate." That night, I worked late, and when I was about to close the curtains to sleep, I noticed Lily's car. I wasn't sure how long it had been there. She was standing outside the car, staring blankly in my direction. She clearly saw me, and I knew she knew I saw her. I dialed her number. She picked up quickly. I said, "Go home. Don't stand there." After a long silence, she choked up. "Alex, my leg hurts so much." I listened coldly, hung up, and pulled the curtains closed. The next day, I sent all the care instructions, precautions, and prescription medications for Lily's leg to her assistant. 2 hours later, the assistant replied with a message. "I almost got fired," she said. Lily was furious when she got home, smashing and throwing things around. This was a rare sight for Lily, usually known for her gentle and composed demeanor. I thought to myself, this was probably the pain of adapting to change. But that night, she knocked on my door. She said, "Alex, let's start over, okay?" She seemed to have had quite a bit to drink, her gaze unfocused as she looked at me. "Alex, don't leave me. I swear I won't do that again. I won't contact Ken anymore, never again. From now on, it'll just be us, okay?" But the next moment, a woman's voice called out, "Alex, who's here?" It was Mia, her hair still wet and damp, wearing an orange cat-themed pajama, drying her hair as she asked. As I turned to look at Mia, Lily suddenly lost control. She rushed past me and grabbed Mia by the hair, but Mia immediately slapped her. I quickly pulled Lily away and threw her out, shouting, "Lily, enough!" Lily's face turned pale as she looked at me, trembling, and pointed at Mia with a shaky finger. "Are you really with this liar?" I stared blankly at her. "Lily, leave." Lily smiled, but it was more grotesque than if she were crying. Her departing figure was as sorrowful as I had ever seen. I had only seen that kind of sorrow when she begged Ken not to leave her. I asked, "Was that on purpose?" Mia pressed her lips into a thin line. She lowered her gaze and didn't answer. I sighed and headed upstairs. She grabbed my arm, holding it carefully and anxiously as she said, "I'm sorry. I won't pretend to be a pretentious coquette girl anymore." I shook my head. "Don't say that. I'm not mad at you. Just stay put. I'll go get the medicine kit." Mia explained that the pipes at her place had burst and were being repaired, so she asked if she could use my bathroom to take a shower. Her pajama was new. Lily had probably forgotten that it was something she had whimsically insisted I buy for her, a matching couple set she had planned for after we got married. But like everything with her, it was fleeting, and the set ended up in the bottom of the drawer. After applying the ointment to Mia's head, I saw her off. She stayed silent the entire time until I spoke up. "How about dinner tomorrow night?" She suddenly looked up, her eyes shining. "Yes," she said. That look was enough to soften anyone's heart, but the next day she stood me up. She apologized, saying she had something come up. The background was noisy, filled with chatter. She hurriedly said a few words before hanging up. At first, I didn't think much of it, but a week later, a project that was supposed to be a collaboration with the Sue family was handed over to the Lee family. Rencorp had automatically backed out of its partnership with the Wang Wang family. I immediately headed to the Lee group. When I saw Lily, her gaze was unfocused, almost as if she had lost her mind. She wasn't surprised to see me, but she said with melancholy, "Alex, you came back. I'm so conflicted. I want you here, but I don't want you here. I don't even know why I feel this way." I looked at her coldly and said without mercy, "Because you're out of your mind." But Lily didn't seem to hear me. She just went on, "Alex, I don't care about you and Mia anymore. As long as you come back, we can start over." I stared at her, speechless. "So you just want me to come back?" She huffed and said, "Yes, of course. I warned you to stay away from me, but you wouldn't listen. So don't blame me for taking her business." I asked, "So as long as I don't come back, you're going to go after Mia no matter what?" She nodded. "Alex, this is between the two of us. Why drag a third person into it?" I slowly walked over, bracing myself against the table as I leaned down to look at her. I asked, "Lily, have you lost your mind? Do you think self-destructive behavior will hurt me? You turned a business deal that could have made money into a loss, and $1 billion opportunity into a $5 billion mess. You have more money than sense." "Alex," she shouted hysterically, "if you walk out that door, I'll make sure Mia pays for it." This woman was clearly crazy. I sneered, "Fine, go ahead. She's only lost a money-making opportunity. I can still compensate her. But Lily, as for how your Lee family is handling this, I have to say I'm very disappointed." She asked, "What about Mia?" She gave up the collaboration just because the costs were too high? Isn't that a betrayal of you two? I laughed. I don't mind. When Mia walked into my office, I was on the phone with my dad discussing a discount for Sue Group. But the next second, I heard her voice, angry as she said, Mr. Wong, I don't care about losing this opportunity. Don't worry about my losses. I can make money on my own. I don't need your charity. In the car, I asked Mia, why didn't you tell me? She pursed her lips and replied, I was afraid you'd compromise because of me. I said, then why didn't you keep bidding against her? She rolled her eyes at me. I'm not stupid. I chuckled. You're pretty smart. If you had gone head-to-head with her, I honestly wouldn't know how to praise you. As for compromising, what do you think I am? Am I someone who can be easily manipulated? I'm not someone who will bear humiliation just to avoid conflict. But Mia, if something like this happens again, tell me right away. She nodded. Okay. The dinner I had promised Mia, which was delayed by a week, was finally made up for. We talked about work arrangements and shared stories about life. It seemed like everything was fine, but only I knew that the phone in my pocket, though on silent, had been lighting up constantly. It was Lily, and then it was Ken. He asked on the phone, got a moment? If not, at least come by. Let's clear the air, the three of us. I drove to Ken's building, but I didn't get out of the car. Instead, I dialed his number. My feelings for Ken were complicated. His father worked as Lily's family chauffeur, but I was the one who first met Ken. One day, Lily's family had an emergency, and her father was called away, bringing Ken along. Not wanting Ken to wait at the employer's house, Lily's father placed him in the gazebo. He sat there, staring at the rain outside, completely fixated. I ran out of my house and asked him what he was looking at. Watching the rain, he said. I asked, is it beautiful? He replied, no. I was speechless. Then why are you watching it? He said, I'm hungry. I found this guy really interesting, so I gave him a box of cookies. The next time I saw him was in middle school. I recognized him immediately, and we became close friends from middle school to high school. He was my best buddy. I thought our friendship would last forever until he took the 500,000 yuan his father gave him and went abroad. Just 500,000. And that was enough for him to betray a relationship and abandon Lily. I couldn't understand it. And like everyone else, I developed a bias against him. I once thought of asking him, if you had the chance to go back, would you regret your choice? But it wasn't me who asked him that question. It was Lily. Through the phone that had never been hung up, Ken's voice came through too. He said to Lily, I wouldn't regret it. Honestly, I'm grateful to your father. He gave me a choice. Either stay with you, but my parents' work would be affected and we'd face endless obstacles from the Lee family, or go abroad. He promised me the best educational resources, covered all the costs, and even offered me job support after graduation. Lily asked, then why did you come back? 10 years ago, you ruined my life, and 10 years later, you've messed everything up again. Ken, why can't you just let me go? Lily replied. Let you go? What a joke. Have you let Alex go? He's been sincere. Let you go? What a joke. Have you let Alex go? He's been sincere with you. So why treat him like that? If you can't get over me, why agree to his confession? If you chose to be with him, why can't you let go of me? Lily, do you really deserve to be with Alex? Lily screamed, shut up. Along with her shout came the sound of glass shattering. She cried hysterically, if it weren't for you, I'd be married to Alex. We'd be happy together. If you hadn't shown up, none of this would have happened. Me and Alex. Lily's voice choked as she sobbed. I love him. Ken laughed. But no one is obligated to wait for your late realization, Lily. Even if I hadn't shown up, how long do you think Alex would have held on? He might have been confused for a moment, but could he have stayed confused forever? Once someone wakes up, you can't keep deceiving them anymore. I don't believe it. Those were the last 3 words Lily said before she left. I saw Lily leave Ken's building, tears on her face, getting into her car, which sped off into the night. After a long silence, Ken said, Alex, if I had known you liked her back then, I wouldn't have gotten involved with her. I finally stepped into Ken's house. He poured me a glass of yellow wine. I asked him, "What about Lily?" He said, "She's sleeping, 9 o'clock bed, 7 o'clock up. Her biological clock is amazing." I asked, "By the way, how did you suddenly end up with someone over there and have a kid?" Ken finished his drink and said, "My second year abroad, my parents passed away, both from terminal illnesses, the kind they couldn't cure. I don't know if you understand that feeling, but when the closest people to you are gone, it's like you suddenly lose the meaning of life. Everyone dies eventually, so why am I even alive? I wasn't exactly suicidal, but I just couldn't figure out why I was living. I struggled for a long time before deciding to have a family, have a kid. She ran away, but it doesn't matter. I found my reason for living in this child. It's not about living for the child, but about having a new life come into this world. She grows up slowly becoming more vibrant, and that is life. Alex, I've always been a very pragmatic and materialistic person. Love, to me, is a luxury. What's a luxury? It's something I can live without if I'm not rich enough. It's nothing that would make me unable to live. I really believe that only people like you, who are well off, have the right to talk about love. So, when I said those things to Lily, I didn't mean to hurt you. Alex, I'm sorry. That night, Ken talked to me a lot. He talked about his life abroad, about raising his child, about his guilt towards me, and about his guilt towards Lily. There was guilt. There really was. Lily had injured her leg trying to save him. He said, "Even now when I see her leg, I still feel bad. What's done is done, and it can't be changed. I thought we were all moving forward, yet here we are, stuck. Why did things turn out this way?" Alex, to be honest, I don't know if my return was right or wrong. I just feel that you shouldn't be anyone's substitute. You should just be yourself, because you are my Alex. That night, I returned home as the first light of dawn appeared. Lily was waiting outside my door, looking at me with sorrowful, helpless eyes. She asked, "Alex, can we really not go back?" I nodded and said, "Lily, don't trap yourself this time. Move forward, really move forward." When I got home, I didn't sleep. I dug through box after box in the storage room, searching for a long time. Finally, I found an old camera. I flipped through the photos. There was me, Ken, and Lily, until one photo caught my eye and time seemed to rewind. It was a moment when I said to her, "Little angel, give me a peace sign." The girl turned her face, marked with a wound, tears in her eyes with dried blood on her forehead. She frowned and looked at me with a somewhat exasperated expression. But I was drawn to that moment and pressed the shutter. I said, "Little angel, here's the umbrella for you. Go home quickly. Don't make your family worry. This photo turned out great. If you want it, it's right here. I'll get it printed for you tomorrow." With a knowing smile, I sent Mia a message. I wrote, "Little angel, do you have time? Tomorrow and same place. I'll bring you the photo." The next second, Mia's phone rang. She said, "Let's meet. Don't be late."